What's good guys, B-Sticks here now. Today we're going to look at the harmony and music theory and chords behind Brent Faiyaz. And we're going to use the song Dead Man Walking, and the reason we're going to use this song is because it is in the key of C major or A minor, which I'll explain later. And this is an interesting track. There's only two chords, so that's going to make it easy for us, but we can actually do so much with these two chords, and I'm going to show you how and why and what we can actually do and see how we can apply it to our own samples and create something really interesting. So let's move to the piano and get this cracking. So what we're going to do is we're going to start here on the middle C, and we're going to call this number 1. This is also a C. The distance between this C and this C is called an octave. And all the white notes between here are in the C major scale. Now, every major scale has a relative minor scale that is built off of the 6th degree of the scale. When I say 6th degree, I mean the 6th note. So let's count up from 1, which is C, D, 2, E, 3, F, 4, G, 5, A, 6. So therefore, the 6th degree is A. So the relative minor of C is A minor. So that is why when I sometimes say C major / A minor, they share the same notes. The A minor scale just starts on the A. So we're going to build a very simple chord from this C major scale that we just looked at. So if we take the C, we take the E, which is the 3rd degree, and the G, which is the 5th degree, we've made a very nice chord, which is a C major chord in root position. If we walk this shape all the way up and back to C, watch what happens. What we've done is we've walked up diatonically from C to C. So we've just played every single chord in the diatonic scale of C. I'm going to tell you as we go up what chord we have, whether it's minor or major. There's only one odd chord here, which is the 7th chord, but we'll come to that. So, the 1, C major. The 2, D minor. The 3, E minor. The 4, F major. The 5, G major. The 6, A minor. Remember that, relative minor. So, there we go, the relative minor. Then we've got B, which is a bit of a strange one, a B diminished, and then back to C again, okay? So we've got the basic triad chords in the C major scale. Now, watch this. What happens if I go from the 1 chord, which is our C major chord, to the F chord, the 4 chord? Listen to this sound. Sounds really cool, right? Now, what we're going to do, right, we're going to add one more note to these chords. So I'm going to add the major 7th, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, to the C major chord. You hear that now? We got extra colour. Well, what we say is that's extended harmony there. What we've just done is we've added another note to that chord. Now watch what happens if we add that same, if we do that exact same shape with the F chord. So now we've got 2. Hear how beautiful that sounds? So we're already starting to make something that sounds more interesting than just. So listen. Sounds really cool. We can do interesting stuff with this now. We've got this C major chord, right? We've added this 7th note. What if I take this note and I play it down here? Oh, that sounds really nice now, doesn't it? What about if we move that shape and we do the same thing with the F chord? Immediately we get more kind of emotional colour there, just by moving that B down there. And we can move the notes of these chords around anywhere we want. So I could take this G and bring it down here if I wanted to. Gives us a different kind of tonal quality there, different colour. Experiment with this yourself and see what you like. You know, this is what I'm doing, is just playing different inversions of the chords. So experiment with moving notes around and see what you can come up with. We've got this movement of going from the 1 chord to the 4 chord, which sounds really good. Now, Dead Man Walking, the 4 chord to the 5 chord. So we've got an F major chord going to a G major chord. If we play that F major 7 and then we go up to the G. Well, if we take the note D in that G chord and we drop it down here, so then we try something like this. So we've got, see, we're already making interesting movements here that sound a little bit more like R&B rather than just nursery rhymes. So we're going to go back to Logic now and we're going to look at how we can use this movement and create something interesting of our own. So guys, what I want to show you is with the simple theory that we've just learned, and using those 2 chords, we can create something amazing sonically that sounds really good. So we're going to use some sound design techniques, some tricks that I've shown in my previous sample videos, and you're going to see that all we really need is 2 chords to make something amazing. So what I've done is at bar 1, I've programmed an F major 7. So I've just used that same shape we were using on the piano, an F, an A, a C and an E. At bar 2, I've arpeggiated those notes going from the top note down to the bottom note. Right, so that gives us an interesting movement to the sound, and all I've done is I've chosen the About Time preset in the Sky Keys. So if we just listen to that on its own, we've got this. Sounds cool, not too bad, but we can make it even more interesting. So bar 3, I've programmed the G major chord. 3-note chord here, I'm just using the basic G major triad, which is just the G, the B, and the D. And then I've also arpeggiated that chord in bar 4. But as you can see, in bar 4, I've done a slightly different melodic interpretation of my arpeggio. So I'll play you bar 3 and 4 so you can have a listen. It just goes. So together, the 4-bar phrase sounds like this. There's a melody going on there and the chords fit into each other really nicely. So let's put some processing on this sound and make it even more interesting. Start with some RC20, add a bit of wobble, a bit of movement to the sound, a shaper box where we're just going to add some side chaining to the sound, Valhalla vintage verb, where again just adding a little bit of reverb to push it back in the mix. Going to give it some EQ to really filter out some of the mud and high end, give it a real good sonic space, and then my favorite texture plugin here. So let's listen to that now with all the processing in. So that sounds really interesting. I might dial the texture back a little bit. This is all a process of trial and error. You have to see what works, what sounds good to you. So the next thing we can do is just add a really simple bass line in, guys. So I'm literally going to follow root notes. I'm going to go on the F on bar 1. I'm going to leave some space. I'm going to put a G in bar 3, and then I'm going to put 1 passing tone at the end of bar 4. So let's listen to these 2 sounds together now. Okay, that note there, that 1 note, which I've just chosen, again, from the diatonic scale of C major, just that 6th note there, the A, that pulls us back to that F. It really adds a lot. If I take it out, you really hear a difference to the feeling of the movement of that's within the notes here and the harmony and the melody. The next sound we're going to put in is a pad, and what we're going to do here is we're going to copy those chords down. There we go, and I've used the Sky Keys again, dry crackle preset. But we can make this more interesting now. Let's add an extra note to each of these chords. And this is so simple. I'm going to add an A going down to a G on these chords. And listen to how this sounds on its own. Just adding 1 note on each chord adds a hopefulness and makes them feel so much more emotional. It's amazing what little things can bring. Let's put some processing back on here. Going to keep the processing very similar to what we had on the first synth sound. So let's listen to all of these sounds together now, these three. Right, doesn't that sound great? And the funny thing is, all we're using is the same two chords that are in Dead Man Walking. So let's add one more sound and a little bit of percussion. Remember, it's not about how much you add, it's about the feeling that you can create with the sounds that you do add. So I don't know if you understand that, maybe listen to that again, but if it feels right and it feels good, it doesn't matter how many sounds or whatever you put in it, whether it's 2 sounds or 25 sounds. I like to keep my sounds to a minimum because I like to keep things simple, and simplicity always just seems to work best. As long as you sound design your sounds really well and you keep things simple, your sample's going to sound great. So let's add a lead sound, and all we're going to do is take notes from the C major scale again. E there, an A, a G, and a D. Let's listen to that without the processing, but with the other sounds in. Sounds beautiful, right? But a bit boring. So let's turn it into an interesting texture. Now, I went to Shaperbox and I just put this bubble adder preset on here, and look what it's done to the sound. It's made it a really, really strange textural sound here. Added some phaser, added some EQ, and what have we got? And in the mix, really interesting. I'm going to put in one percussion sound. That's all, one percussion sound here, and listen to the bounce that it gives us. Now, I know that an artist is going to be able to flow on that. When you put some drums on there, simple, but it just sounds good. It sounds interesting. We can do all kinds of stuff. We can take this wherever we want it. But I just wanted to demonstrate to you that using these two chords here, we can make something great. Now, you might say, that sounds so much like Dead Man, you're ripping it off, whatever. But the cool thing we can do, because this is MIDI, right, and we've programmed in C major, we now know a couple of chords in C major, we can transpose this, right? What if I take this synth and I highlight the notes and I drop them down 2 steps like that? Wow. Without any more knowledge, we've just moved that down from C major down to A flat major. Now we could copy all of the MIDI down, but what I prefer to do is use my sound shifter on my master here, drop everything by 2, because that adds an extra texture layer to our sample, gives it a little vintage flavour. Right, now we're cooking. Listen to this. So, you see, it's like magic. Anyway, guys, if you got something out of this, go cop my mini kits for free. Their links are in the description. Follow me on Instagram. And I hope to see you in the next tutorial. So take care, guys.